All right, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Yay, thank you guys for joining me for another live video. This series here is our Saturday weekly markup. So from now until I'm not trading, whatever week I'm trading, every Saturday we will come here live and we will go over and mark up my watch list. I don't have a set time right now for every week. So please go ahead and subscribe, like this video if you gain some valuable information, and turn on that notification bell so you'll know when I'm live. Or you can go to my YouTube profile and you'll find the link to my Discord. Join my Discord and I will let you know when I go live in my Discord. All right. All right. So I have 30 pairs on my watch list and we are going to mark up the strategy that I trade. I trade Romeo's weekly RCT levels combined with ICT concepts, which is fair value gaps, inversions, liquidity. If you know, you know. I'm not here to teach. So if you want to learn something about fair value gaps, I suggest you follow my mentor. He's Tracy Esco, certified snipers. I believe his name on Instagram is CS Esco. But if you type in certified snipers, you'll see Esco, and that's him. All right. So our first pair that we're going to look at is the dollar. And as you can see over here in the left-hand corner, we have the US dollar. So I like to, although I trade the weekly CRT, I also like to go to the monthly just to see if I can see something that may react on the monthly time frame. Right now, I know that we are in this fair value gap. Price has filled this imbalance on this gap right here. Okay? So potentially price could reverse or price could come up into this order block. These are areas where I can set a POI, right? A point of interest is an area where I can sell or buy at. All right, so I'm going to mark up this order block. All right, and I normally don't label it. I find with all these lines, labeling also, it just clutters my chart. So with my horizontal lines, I know that these are areas that are similar to support and resistance. So how people would say when price hits, and forgive me if I say this wrong because I don't even use support or resistance anymore, but when price hits resistance, it's the floor, so it should bounce and buy. And then price hits support, it's supposed to be like the sell-in, it should fall, right? These, instead of support and resistance, I use 50% of order blocks, 50% of fair value gaps, 50% of inversions, and possibly, if I can remember, 50% of a breaker block. I'm not really big on breaker blocks. I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure I could hear myself. I'm not really big on breaker blocks, so it's very rare that I bring them up. But inversions, fair value gaps, and order blocks. Okay, I wanted to see if you guys could hear like a vacuuming noise in the background because my kids are cleaning the carpet in their room. So if you hear something like that, it's just because the carpet is being cleaned. All right, so that's one of my zones. I'm not going to leave this here because price did feel this imbalance. All right, and I want to see about where are we on this 50% of this gap. All right, so this line right here represents 50% of this monthly gap. I do also notice that it's almost at the low, and I say almost, I'm going to zoom in just so you can see. It's not quite the low, it's some pips off, and this is probably quite a bit of pips just because we're on the monthly. Okay, it's 38 pips from the low, but that was 50% of that monthly gap. We're on top of 50% of this monthly gap. So I am going to delete this area because I want to get as close to current price action as I can. So this is irrelevant to me. But I do want to keep this because this could be an area as to where price could be heading to. All right. So now I come down to the weekly. I see in the weekly we're also in another fair value gap. And we have not hit it. I did not mark up the right fair value gap. I saw that gap, but this is the gap that I was talking about. Sorry. Okay. All right. So we are currently right at the 50% of this weekly fair value gap. So as you can see, if we zoom in, if I was to go down to a lower time frame, price is telling me that 1 week price came all the way up here and then barely struggled to close above this 50%, right? Then it fell back down and then it pushed back up and we closed above it. And then it came back down again. So we've been at this weekly 50% for about 3 weeks now, right? This is still significant to me. So I am going to mark this. Okay. I have to delete my block, my rectangle in the back. All right. So now I am going to mark the high and the low of my weekly candle. And I use the magnet tool to get right on top and right below. All right. And then sometimes I use the fib, sometimes I use the Gann fib, sometimes I use the rectangle. But now I'm going to draw from the top, from the bottom of the box to the top of the box, and mark off 50% of my weekly. I like to make sure I'm like right on the line as much as possible. All right, now I'm gonna put a horizontal line right here at 50%. All right, so all of the lines that are left on my screen is essentially, like support and resistance. These are zones that I use to look for entries on lower time frames. All right, so now I'm gonna go to my daily and we're just gonna see what pattern or what do we see. And right off the bat, I'm noticing um this, I believe it's a flag pattern, but don't get me started. uh it's a channel. So prices coming down, going up, coming down, going up, coming down. So right now we're on top of this zone. We got to get on top of this zone to get to that zone. But I can also draw my trend lines here. One second. All right. I don't like that. All right, so these are our trend lines. Every time price came near this line, it still kind of like wicked out, but it respected these areas. So right now, this was our low, and it looks like it's coming back up. And actually, we know for sure. I'm not gonna say I know for sure, but Trump has been very good for the dollar, and Monday is inauguration day. So I'm pretty sure we can look to see price on the dollar continue up this week. And you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna look at news real quick. All right, so this is tomorrow, market open. There's no USD news. Monday, bank holidays. So again, it's inauguration. Market is supposed to close at like 1 p.m. We're probably not going to take any entries because market's going to be slow. But we are going to come back and we'll be here live Monday morning at 6:30 at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time, 7 Eastern Standard Time. All right, Tuesday. We don't have any USD news at all. This is going to be I want to say this is going to be a slow market this week because news normally gives us more volume. But with inauguration and Trump get back in office, baby. When I first started trading, Trump was in the office, and US 30 would like overnight tank. It'd just drop like 600,000 points, and then next morning it would climb. Like, I don't know if we're entering into another one of those volatile Trump markets where whenever he says something, the market is gonna move. Whenever he tweets, the market is gonna move. What? So this is gonna be exciting times, okay? Exciting times. That's all we can say. But Wednesday, no USD news. Thursday, we have unemployment claims. We'll track on Thursday how the market moves on unemployment claims. I am not really sure. I know for sure NFP, PPI, CPI are like major red floater moving days, but we will track that. And I think we're actually going to come and trade live on Thursday at this is 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. It'll be 7:30 Central Standard Time. So just so we can see, like, are we gonna get a big spike? Okay. 9:45. We have PMI. I'm not even sure what PMI is. I don't know, but we'll come. We're gonna live trade and we're gonna forward test this and see what happens with PMI. We're gonna document all of these so that going forward we'll be like, okay, yeah, it's worth getting up live trading for, or no, it's not really gonna do anything. All right, so we'll see how the week goes as far as news. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go back. So now I have my zones and the pattern that I see marked up. Now I just go down to the 4 hour just to look. I'm not going to add anything else because these are my most important areas, right? Last week's high and low, which was this candle, 50% of a weekly gap, 50% of a monthly gap. All right, and as we can see on this 4 hour, what was this, Friday, we got a really nice bullish push up. But also, if we look a little closer, price has been in this area since January the 25th. It came up into this area on, nope, Wednesday, January 15th. I'm sorry. The date is down here. The date is down here. So Wednesday, 15, January 25. January 15, 2025. January 15, 2025. It started consolidating on Wednesday, okay? So we did all this selling down on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, hit TP, and then we consolidated for the rest of the week. And what I know about consolidation is price is about to turn back around. So it also stopped in this fair value gap over here. And it's closing above that fair value gap. Like, it keeps reaching down to the trend line. It reached down to this gap. It reached back down. It reached back down to 50%. Reached back down to 50% again. Okay. So these are why I mark up these areas, because they're significant. But I know that it's consolidating because it's not making any highs. It's literally hitting here, hitting here, hitting here, hitting here. Okay. So if we go down to the 1 hour, you can tell a little closer that it's consolidation. So these are our zones that I want to be looking at for next week, right? Now, every time we come down, there's another fair value gap. Like, there's gaps on gaps on gaps. So we need for price to stay above this, and it's doing it. All right, so we have a gap right here that price has already acknowledged. I would want to see price get on top of this gap and then come back and retest this area and then move higher. Now, what I look for on Mondays is to see if it's gonna break structure to the high and then come back, retest here, or now I see that we have a gap here. But I won't enter a buy on here unless price breaks this area, right? I needed to break this area and then come back and pull me back up, go back up. All right. So these are our levels that we have marked up for next week. On the dollar, we're looking at buys, but we're going to let the market tell us. All right, so we're going to mark up US 30. If you don't know, US 30 is a bullish moving asset, right? So you get your buys and then you have your pullbacks. Pullbacks are opportunities for the buys, right? But with day trading Forex, we can trade the buy and the sell. Now, what I noticed last week on US 30, SPX, and NICE we ran liquidity on the low. So I want to see if we touch the 50% of last month's candle. So I'm going to mark the low up. All right, I'm going to mark the low of last month's candle, the high of last month's candle, and then 50%. Oh, and we're right at it. Okay. So we are going to trade the monthly and the weekly CRT because when price hit monthly levels, they either will reject instantly or consolidate for a while, right? But like I said, with Trump being in office and his inauguration is Monday, we might just see a spike. We might see all-time highs because we have liquidity right here, which is equal highs, and this is the highest US 30 has ever been. It's at 45,154. We might break the highs next week with Trump being in office. So this will be a nice buy. We just gotta catch it. We just gotta catch it. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm trying to zoom in if I'm making your eyes go crazy. All right. I'm gonna delete my high real quick so y'all can see these equal highs. You see this candle and this candle? If I put this line above it, you see how close they are? Yeah, that's liquidity. And we're expecting for price to break through that. I'm saying this week and not next week just because of the inauguration. All right, so that was my monthly CRT, and I'm going to mark up my weekly CRT. I'm not going to do the weekly high because the 50% in the weekly high is just like super duper close. There's no purpose of putting, you see that? There's no purpose of putting two lines right here. I am, however, going to mark the weekly low because that's probably like 50 to 100 points, probably more knowing US 30. Yeah, that's 422 points. That's a significant difference. All right. So let's see. Last week we got a super bullish candle into this gap right here, this weekly gap. I want to see where we are on this weekly gap, if we closed above the 50 or below. Okay. We're right at the 50 of the weekly gap. We're right at the top of the weekly gap, and we're right at 50% of the monthly. So we may consolidate. I don't know, but I'm gonna delete that because they're all on top of each other. All right, so let's see what's happening on the daily. All right, so price is on top of this daily, this gap right here. See, price came, touched it some, then came back down. It hesitated a little, but we got on top of it and it made it to this 50%. All right, so we have this big imbalance right here, which I am going to mark that because price could potentially trade back down here. and then buy up. I'm trying to make sure this is another important level for me. And personally, I am not going to look for the sell. I am looking for the buy. Now, normally I would set a buy limit, but with this being a monthly zone, a weekly fair value gap, it ran, did it run monthly high? No, it didn't run monthly high because they were equal. But with this zone, it could send some pressure back down because we have here and we have a gap down here. Price could come all the way back down here. And really, we want price to come all the way back down there because we want it to run. It might not run last week's lows. That's a big high. I was going to say we wanted to run last week's lows with the way that this strategy is. You wanted to run price to run a high or a low, and then we're looking to trade the turnaround. But I don't know. This is US 30. Okay. I'm seeing something else. Let's see. We have a gap right here, right? I'm seeing that. Okay, price did touch that gap. Price touched that gap twice. Okay. So price shouldn't have a reason to come back down here and then trade higher. It shouldn't. Where are we? This is a 338 point stop loss. On a dollar trade, that would be a 338 loss with a $2,000 plus gain, right? For my account, it's just a little too much risk. Okay. So I wouldn't put a limit because I don't know if it's gonna come and hit this and then come back here and then buy, or if it's gonna just come and play around and then buy. But I am going to be looking for buys either in this area or this area. And now that I'm looking at it, we have these trend lines, right? You done with yours, Joe? You done? Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna put it there. All right. And this is what people call a break and retest. Price could come here. This is in an order block. Down candle for an up move. Okay. So we're just marking these areas up. So when price moves on Monday, we'll watch. We won't have to mark it up. We'll be clicking through, watching, see what happens. We got another gap here. But mainly, this is our 50% area of our weekly. So I don't know. I don't want to see price come back down here, but it could come further. All right, so that's US 30. USD CAD. Let's see. Let's see. Right off the bat, I see liquidity up here. See if USD come up here and get these equals. And it's all adding up because the dollar is very much so. I feel it's going to be bullish because Trump in office, he's been good for the dollar, right? He has been, but that was in his first term. You don't know what's going to happen in the second term. I also see that price ran this monthly high. So we could possibly get a turnaround. I want to see where the weekly is compared to this monthly high. Okay. So the weekly is above. I am going to leave the monthly high there because price could just pull back to this monthly high and not 50% of this candle and then continue to buy because that's a strong area. Price could consolidate. Like when we're at monthly levels, those are strong areas. All right, so mark my high, mark my weekly low. Okay, excuse me for that. All right, and then we're going to mark our 50% of our weekly candle. Kaya, 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 bring me that. I'm sorry, I have a puppy that likes to bite on everything but her chew toys. Okay. All right, so I really don't see anything else significant that I need to mark. Um, we did have a fair value gap right here. I can already tell that this low looks like 50% of this, so I'm not gonna even measure it. Price is very much so bullish, but even with the bullish trend, you get these pullbacks. Thank you, Sienna. All right, and the same thing that we saw in the DXY, we had consolidation and then a big strong bullish candle. Consolidation, big strong bullish candle. Is this the high? This all-time highs? Okay, all right. So let me see. We're for sure going up, I believe, anyways. So I want to come up here and mark up an area that price could be going to. And of course, we said up here because we had equal highs. And then here because this is our next high. It's our next um, area of liquidity that price is trying to break. It's like you're trying to break your last record, right? All right. All right. So on the dollar, we noticed that it was consolidation, a big bullish move. It gets even clearer on the 4 hour consolidation, big behind bullish move, right? Um, this is a nice range, nice 75 pips. So that's a good range for a TP. It's very doable because last week's weekly range was 92 pips. All right. I don't, hmm, I see a gap here. I see a gap here, right? If price comes up here and then comes back into here and gives me some type of break of structure gap, move, I'm gonna take it to here. Let's see. Yeah, 60 something pips should be good, and it should be a good risk to reward. I don't see it coming all the way back down to here. I don't. But if price comes back to here and gives some type of confirmation that it's going higher, I am for sure gonna take another trade, and I'm gonna take it to here. And my stop loss is gonna be below here. And that's a 4-to-1. 50 pip stop loss to a 200 pip gain, which would be beautiful, right? But we're going to come back Monday, let Monday tell us what price is going to do for the week. All right. So these are our levels that we're going to trade this week for USD CAD. This is a very, very nice gap. But this was our last low. That was a nice pullback and came up here and broke out of this consolidation. So I definitely want to see buying opportunities here, here, or between one of these. And we're going to take it here. I'm not even going to try to take it to all-time highs this week. I'd be satisfied with this range, 75 pips. All right, so EU, EU is sitting in a bullish fair value gap, right? EU also ran last month's low. I'm going to mark the 50% and last month's low because it's enough space in between, right? I'm pretty sure it's enough pips in between for those to be two levels. All right. I'm going to come down to, well, let me double check, make sure I'm not missing anything here. I could draw this trend line because we're very much so trending on down. Oh, okay, okay. Let's figure out the trend line. Mm, don't like that. So we got two hits. It played around. It hit again, rejected. Price came back up. This would have been one of those fake out trades. Price came back up and then came back under it. Now we're back on top of it. Well, also, let me see. I like how this one looks. All right, so these are valid. Both of these trend lines are valid. As long as you have two rejections, then it's considered a trend line. All right. I'm going to keep these trend lines. I'm going to keep these. Are we at Euros like close to all time low? Yes, we are. Back 2002 lows. I see a gap over here that price just looked like price just reacted. That's where we got that buy from. Hmm. Okay, that's a 700 pip drop. Okay, we're not going to mark that. All right, now we are Going to go to our weekly, and I see another fair value gap here on the weekly. So this tracks if the dollar's buying, EU should continue selling. Okay, so this was a higher time frame, 50% of a gap. Because it's so close to my weekly CRT high, I'm actually going to delete this, and I'm going to go with my weekly CRT high, my weekly CRT low. I'm going to keep this one because this was the monthly low. And then we're going to mark up 50%. All right. So these are my zones that I want to pay attention to for this week. I want to delete this because I'm like, price dropping this low is crazy, but Trump, yet again. Can I say Trump? Will my video be blocked? Because we are getting a new president tomorrow. The dollar could just go skyrocketing. It could rocket for weeks. I don't know. But for now, this is where we are in price. All right, so let's see on this daily. There's nothing else that I really want to mark up on here. We know this is in a downtrend. It's just making lower lows and lower lows. Okay. So we have a fair value gap down here that price could potentially buy from. But yet again, we said we really don't want to see buys. We want to see sells. But price could come here, buy up to here, and then drop. I'm not having any predictions. We are going to see what happens Monday. We'll we'll watch it live on Monday. Do I have any zones up here? No. I'm gonna mark up this fair value gap just in case price breaks this area. I would want it to see it really sell from here. This would be my ideal sell entry. But see, there's liquidity right here. It could come up here and wick all of that out. But we don't have any crazy news. All we have is the inauguration this week. This is what I would want to see. It's a 3-to-1. It meets all of our rules. 1 second. Okay. It beats all of our rules. It's a 1-to-2. Gives us a nice risk to reward ratio. It'll be a 57 pip stop loss, 200 pip gain. Okay. But we'll see what happens Monday. What structure's telling us. What the entry's looking like. All right. So we're gonna go to GU. So if the dollar is buying, EU selling, GU should be selling. We got the same thing. We're in this big downtrend. All right, this is our low, 22 low. It's gonna be crazy if it drops down there. We have this gap right here. Okay, price already hit that gap, but I am going to mark it up again because it is a monthly level. right. And we did break the monthly low, but since price is so far from the monthly low, I'm not going to mark it up. I'm going to just use the weekly CRT levels. Weekly. All right, so we're going to mark up last week's low, last week's high, and 50% of the range. That is not right. Here we is. Here we are. It's right there. Okay. All right. And then now that I see that, I do see that we have a gap right above it. So I'm going to mark up that gap too. All right. Now I'm going to mark up 50% of the range. Wow. And look how price closed right under the 50%. 200 pip range. Uh, all right. Now, let's see. Okay, there we go. There's a gap in this range. All right, so there's a gap, and an inversion candle right here. So I'm going to do 50% of the inversion. Okay. Actually, because I use these areas as TPs, I know for sure that price is going to come here first, and then it might react before coming down here. That's a 100 pip range. So I'm going to keep it at 50% of this daily gap right here. Right here. All right, so these are my zones. I see a trend line here. I had to come down to the lower time frame to see it better. All right. So we got a touch. Price went up. Touched it again. Touched it again. Played around in this area. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, this was nice. This was already. So this is probably going to finish tomorrow. It's going to finish selling. I don't see why not. Because price broke structure. Left a gap. It's like consolidating at this area. I want to see it break this level and leave some type of gap to get in. Trade it down to here. 70 pip gain depending on if it lets us in or not. I'm going to look for that on Sunday, Monday. That's going to be a good one. Price might not let us in though. It could just drop. Like I don't like when price just drops. All right. Let's see. We have SPX. All right, so SPX did the same thing as US 30. I don't think we looked at Nas yet. Yeah. US 30, it broke our low and it's definitely looking like it's higher than 50%. So we are going to mark up the monthly and the weekly. All right, so we're going to mark up last month's low, last month's high, and 50% of that candle. My kiddos are moving around, so if you hear background noise, it's them. Just type hi in the chat section. Send them a shout out. Okay. Um, all right, that's our monthly. Okay. And since our weekly is lower than our monthly, I'm just going to move our weekly and delete the monthly. Okay. Because if price comes back down here, it has to come near that area. All right. Mark our weekly high and weekly 50%. All right, now we're going to go down to the daily. All right, so currently on our daily, of course, we're making higher highs, higher highs. We have not made a higher low. Well, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, right? This was our last higher low. Price came below it, but it closed above it. Even this one, it came all the way down here and then pushed all the way back up and still closed below, letting you know that it is pushing up. It's having some trouble in this area because it's moving around, testing these same areas, but it is indeed trying to move up. So within this consolidation area, I see this fair value gap right here. I want to see how close it is, how close the 50% is to my levels. So this is really close to my weekly 50%. If it comes here, it has to come to my weekly 50%. So I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to stick to my weekly. I do see where I can put a trend line. This is looking like, what was it, US 30? It was a breakout trade. I'm going to use this one. I would for sure love to see price come back here and then continue higher. For sure. I want to see it clear out all this imbalance right here. But it didn't do that here. It just traded on down. And so this could continue to just trade on up. Okay, so we have a gap here. We have a gap here. So instead of coming all the way down here, it could just stop here and then continue higher. But these are my zones for SPX. We'll see what happens Sunday evening and Monday morning. All right, how many of these have I done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 30 to go through. I'm going to take a break right here. I'll be back. Give me about 15 minutes, okay? can do is go back over your room, your floor. Go back over it. Go back on my floor. Yeah, with that. I thought I pressed mute on this thing. All right, I'm back. I could have sworn I pressed mute. So I don't know what conversations y'all heard between my kids or if somebody just started vacuuming. All right, so let's mark up GJ. All right, so we're gonna go to the monthly. Well, we are at the monthly. And right off the bat, I see that price is trading off of this FVG. So this is a significant level. It's an important level. I am going to mark that up. I'm not going to mark the monthly high or low because price did not wick the high or the low yet. I am going to mark the weekly low and the weekly high. All right. Now I do see that price just came out of this weekly gap, which is near our weekly low. So I'm not going to mark that up. And then I do see that price is inside a balanced price range, and that's where you have two gaps next to each other. So let me zoom in and see if you can see this. All right, so we got a fair value gap here, and we have an inversion here. But price is already traded through these, so I'm not going to mark that up. I do see that price left a gap last week, and I am going to mark up this gap. Okay. Now we're going to mark up 50% of the weekly gap. All right, let's go down to the daily. Now I want to see, I was looking for an area of interest down here, but I think I'm just going to mark this wick just in case price breaks out of this level, retest this level, and trades lower. Then I want to see it come here. And then as the week goes by, if there's a gap that forms within this range, yeah, this is 125 pip range. Okay, it looks like it's normal. Last week's was 126, so. What are you down there doing? Hold on, y'all. This girl. What are you down there doing? not chew on whatever is under my desk, please? Where'd you go? Oh, okay. All right. Let's get back settled. Okay, so looking at this, I definitely see price coming back up because it bounced off of this area really well, then gave us this bullish movement. We have this gap right here on the 4 hour that could possibly price could possibly come here or here and send price back down, or it could come all the way back up here. I'm not sure. We're gonna wait, see what happens on Monday. Oh, this looks nice. Whoever caught this on Friday, yep, and price hit the 50%. 117. All right, it's a nice 2 to 1, 57 pip stop loss, 117 pip. And at this point, you could have lessened your risk. Thank you. So what we're looking for, let's see. Excuse me. So this is our weekly low. Our weekly low here, and it's looking like liquidity here. On Monday, I would like to see price come down and then get back on top of this gap so that I can get in for the buy. But most of the time on Sunday, Monday, it finishes the move from Friday and then it like consolidates and then goes into the move for the week on Tuesday. So let's see. That would still be a nice one. See what happens on Sunday. Sunday open is that if they let us in. Cause that's a nice looking trade, okay? Alright, but here's our zones for GJ. Alright, EJ. Same thing as GJ, we're sitting in a monthly gap. And we haven't swept last week's high or low. So we're not going to mark anything at the weekly, but we are going to mark the high and low. I'm sorry, at the monthly. We're already going to mark the high and low of the weekly, 50%. And I'm also going to check right here where we have this weekly gap. It's a gap and a gap on both sides. So that's a price balance range. I just want to see where 50% is on that. Okay. I'm fine with not marking up 50% and leaving price here because with the CRT strategy, we want to see price move outside of the weekly low and come back anyways. So it's going to be nice if we see price come down and touch that fair value gap. It's so close, it has to come down and touch that. But I'm not going to mark it. I'm going to keep my weekly low. Now, I'm almost seeing a channel here. We got up, down. Let's see if it's coming up. I do see a gap right here. That's a long ways away from where we are, but just following this pattern. Did we have that same on the GJ? Huh, we did. Hold on, let me put this trend line. Okay. This didn't even make it all the way down to the trend line before it's trying to make its way back up. So I'm going to leave that there. All right, so I think that's everything on the weekly, daily. This inversion has been filled. This gap has been filled. This gap has been filled. Yeah, we have nothing else down here. All right. 4 hour, I see a trend lines. We're getting lower highs, but this was our that really wasn't even a lower low. This was our lower low. So this was our I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. My 4 hour break of structure was here because we broke structure for the high here and then we had a pullback here. And that took us up to this high. So our break of structure was here. Price came back up after breaking structure into this gap. And now it has traded back down to its low. How long did it take that? 8 days. Okay. All right. So, did I mark my 50% of that weekly? Nope. All right. That's 50% of the weekly CRT. All right. So I was on the 4 hour time frame. This looks beautiful to send us back down, right? So we know we broke structure here. After price broke structure, price came back up into this gap, which sent us down to break another low, which was here. Price broke this low here. I want to see price come back up into this gap or this gap to send us back down to this gap and near this trend line. But what we want to look for is the right now trades during this week. And what I'm pretty sure we'll see on Sunday open Monday is price continue to make its way up. This isn't a 1 to 2, so I wouldn't trade this. It has to be a 1 to 2 for me to trade it. But I'm going to watch this play out, and we'll see what happens between Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, where we can enter in a trade. Possibly sells, though, because we're definitely in a downtrend. Well, JPY pairs is like indices. Whenever it's trending down, it's just a pullback because the yen is so low, right? See, we're just trending up, 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 up. We've been trending up for years. We got pullbacks, but it's mainly a bullish pair. All right, so we'll see what happens. All right, let's go to gold. Gold monthly. Okay, so I do see that gold hit 50% of this fair value gap and turned around. We're still trading inside of last month's candle. So there's nothing on the monthly that I'm going to mark up. All right, last week we traded out the week before candle. So I am going to mark up my weekly CRT. But I'm going to do something a little different with this one. I'm going to do the high, the low, and 50%. And then, oh, you know what? Okay. Marking up the 50%, I was going to mark off the high of this candle. But with this 50% falling like right here where the weekly couldn't push up, I'm not going to add that extra zone. I'm just going to leave this zone. All right. So we're going to go to the daily. Let's see. All right, so the daily left from this gap. What was that in December? We've been buying since December. We're so close to this liquidity. And then we do have a little price balance range up here. But before price gets there, price has to run this liquidity. This is our next high. Actually, this is our next high. So price could hit here and then come back down in here. All right, so price is in a gap right here. I am gonna mark this gap up, but normally price respects 50% of the weekly. So it might like just bounce off of this area, but well, it did bounce off this area, but we should still see it come down to the 50%. But I'm gonna mark it just in case it doesn't. Yep, and then we got another gap here and a gap here that could send it back down. I want to look at 15-minute structure. All right. So uh on the 4 hour, this was our last break of structure right here. The price broke out and went to another high and come back and retest in this area. On the hourly, we have here, 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 here. Okay. I count this as a pullback because price did go here and then it went higher here. As you can see, it went higher and then it went higher again here and then it dropped down to here. This was our last higher low. So this was our hourly structure. And then on the 15-minute, we can see it a little clearer, right? Price pulled back to come into this gap. That gave us our higher low. That took us to our higher high. And then price came down and broke this. And now we got a lower low. We got equal highs here. So we have liquidity here. I would want to be a seller here. Now, because we have a gap here and we know that this was our 50%, price has to come back to the 50%. This is the only trade that I would go so far as to actually put a sell limit on tomorrow when the market opens. And it's a 4-to-1. Now, I hesitated on that for a minute because I thought about my weekly CRT rules. And where's my weekly high? Okay, this one is my weekly high. Okay, so this is my weekly high. I actually want to wait and see if price is going to come outside of this area and then come beneath and come back up and hit it and then fall. But for sure, I'm going to be watching out for gold tomorrow. All right, I've only made it through 9 of these. And we have 30 to get through. So, and we've been on this for almost an hour and a half now. I'm going to log off, take a break, and then come back. But we are for sure going to get through all 30 of these tonight. So give me a minute and